Okay, welcome back. So on Thursday, we had what was one of the biggest days of news, even in the kind of the 3.5 years I've been doing this. And it started off with the announcement of Qantas's extraordinary full-year profits, and then a load of other things that kind of came to us a little bit by surprise. Jake, tell us about this day of days. Let's start off with Qantas's monster profit.
Marathon, absolute marathon.
He was
of a
exhausted.
day.
There was, blood on my keyboards.
Yeah, no, it's my fingers were worn down to stumps. Yeah, the main event was, of course, the release of Qantas's full year results and everything that stemmed from that. $2.465 billion profit for Qantas. It is a lot of money. I need to renegotiate my salary, but it is a $2.465 billion profit for the financial year. This is a massive turnaround from the loss, the $1.86 billion loss that it recorded in financial year 2022, and so it is the first full year profit for Qantas since 2009. Alan Joyce is saying, it's a world away from the $7 billion in statutory losses we racked up during COVID. A key difference between this result and our last profit is the $1 billion in restructuring that is formally complete today. This is a remarkable turnaround. 3 years in the making. It's been hard. He said, from being 11 weeks shy of insolvency to a challenging return to flying across the industry to finally getting back to leading domestic operational performance. So this is, a coup, you'd have to think, for Alan Joyce as he heads out the door.
He's marking his own homework and he's given himself an A star.
I mean, if I had the ability to mark my own homework when I was in high school, that's what I would have done.
So he's done there, and so this is like the final flourish. This is the last big announcement made by the King.
Or so you would think.
Or so you would think.
Because Qantas, because Alan Joyce also announced a tremendous new order of 12 new Dreamliners, 12 A350s to replace the bulk of Qantas's aging A330 fleet. And in addition, Qantas is going to be retiring its A380s starting in, I believe it was 2031 to 32.
So what's interesting is a day or so before this announcement was made, Reuters sort of had a kind of rumour that Qantas may be buying some more Dreamliners, but at the time we had no idea how many. Now, previously, we spoke about on this show and we've reported on the website how Qantas was under a lot of sort of stick for just not having enough wide-body, long-haul aircraft, and particularly they've had this kind of wet lease deal with Finnair. Essentially to kind of borrow aircraft and crew from a smaller sort of Finnish airline to help keep them going. So it didn't sound when they were announced that there was any big aircraft order coming. But just like that, Alan has pulled this rabbit out of a hat. This is a monster order. Tell us about the significance of this, because this is 24 big aircraft.
Yeah, 24 very, very big aircraft. Not as big as the A380, honestly, which is going to be retired. But these, as I said, they're going to be replacing the bulk of the A330 fleet. So we've got 4 787-9s, like the ones that they already have, 8 787-10s. So these are the airline's first 787-10s. There's 12 A350-1000s, which I believe is sort of in addition to the previous announced Project Sunrise and Project Winton orders. So the A350-1000 is what they're going to be using to fly Project Sunrise from the East Coast to New York and London non-stop. And this is... As Alan Joyce said, this is a generational decision for the company. They were going to arrive over a decade or more. They'll be part of the fleet for 20 years. He said they'll unlock new routes and better travel experiences for customers, new jobs and promotions for our people. So 24 new planes are going to be, having the Flying Kangaroo on the tail.
Now, this is one of the things that's interesting about this is it's almost certainly the last big new aircraft order that they're going to announce maybe for decades. So we know, I think they've officially confirmed something like 46 of their domestic fleet, but they've got the option to get more. We know we'll get more. But in terms of like a big new announcement, this is it for a long time.
Absolutely.
Now, as obviously Chris now is something of a celebrity in the industry, but back in the day, he was humble cabin crew. And he and his old friend Alan Joyce would often be cleaning the aircraft together, exchanging jokes. You call him Joycey.
Joycey.
They're, your mates. And so I want to pose this question to you. With a flourish, just like that, he's pulled this rabbit out of a hat. Should he not, bearing in mind that he's meant to be on the way out, have left this big announcement to his successor Vanessa to make? It sounds like to me he's not been very generous with this. What would you say, Chris?
I would have thought that this would have been an announcement that could have been made once successor Vanessa had taken over. However, I guess Joycey on his way out is going out with a bang, and look what I did and look what we've achieved, and my name's on the dotted line on the order.
I suppose it is a logical time to announce it alongside the results.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But we spoke when he kind of announced the exit date, which I think is November, and I think this was announced a couple of months ago.
The AGM in November, yeah.
Yeah, right. And one of the points that Chris made, which I never occurred to me, but I thought was very correct, is that they were having this transition. And during this transition, it would be a good time for the public to get to know Vanessa in a very carefully kind of managed way. And the thinking might potentially be that Alan would take any kind of bad news in, would front that, and then would let Vanessa take the wins. It doesn't feel to me like Vanessa's being put very front and centre. This is very much still the Alan Joyce show, I may put to you.
I guess he's proving us all wrong and going out on his own terms and in his own way, and good luck to him.
Which we should have expected from Alan Joyce, really.
Is
that if there's one thing that man has always done, it's things his own way.
Yes.
That's true. Very true.
And I would say, and we've said this multiple times, but if you are listening, Alan, and I'm absolutely sure he is, you've had this wonderful end to your career. You've got this big last announcement. But what you need is an exit interview.
Absolutely.
You need to come on this show and round out this career. So here's what I'm thinking. Come on the show. We'll give you an open forum. We'll chat about everything. If you listen, Alan, that's the last thing to do. I don't think the job is complete until you've come on the show, is what I would say. Now, another aspect of this, just before we kind of wrap this up, was that we had a kind of confirmation that Qantas A380s will be leaving service. We kind of knew roughly they had another 10 years or so to go, but now we've kind of officially got that last marker. Jake tells a little bit more about this, because this means the end of the kind of jumbo jet or the super jumbo era for Qantas.
Yeah, so they're going to be retiring them from the 2032 financial year onwards. This is after they confirmed the Dreamliner and A350 order. Joyce said that the A380 still has a lot of life left in it. They just underwent some recent cabin upgrades. But he said that they have these new aircraft are going to be cutting emissions, reaching sustainability targets. They burn significantly less fuel, especially when moving from a 4-engine A380 to a twin-engine A350. Now, this comes after these A380s have been returning to service. I think the last two that we're going to return to service have already come back following the pandemic, when a lot of them were sent to the Victorville Boneyard to be put into storage. And these are the last of the huge quad-jet planes that Qantas has been flying since they got rid of the 747s in 2020. So the Queen of the Skies has left the Qantas fleet, and what do we call the
blob?
The whale.
Yeah, I mean, that's not very nice. It's not very nice as a nickname, is it? The whale. So the 747 becomes the Queen of the Skies, and the A380 is just the whale.
But that's what it looks like.
I think it's a very beautiful aircraft, I'll have you know.
No.
But one final point we should discuss is that we had Project Winton, which is the name for the domestic fleet renewal. It's pretty much, it is an entirely Airbus initiative. Is entirely Airbus aircraft.
Very Airbus heavy, yeah.
Very Airbus heavy, and it's entirely Airbus. We also then have Project Sunrise, which is a bunch of A350 1000s or 12, which are specially adapted. I don't know the technical specifications off the top of my head, but basically got bigger fuel tanks in order to make that long trip. And so Qantas was very much moving towards being an Airbus airline. So I thought it was slightly surprising that they've gone back in for 12 more Dreamliners. That's a vote of confidence in that aircraft.
You'd have to think so, yeah. And I mean, the Dreamliner has sort of proven itself as a pretty decent plane. since it came into service. You know, you've got all. I mean, Jetstar's got Dreamliners. I was surprised to find out that Jetstar had Dreamliners. I'd always sort of associated with Dreamliner with the upper end of things, but Jetstar's got Dreamliners, and so I think the Dreamliner has kind of earned its stripes, and I think that. Yeah, it makes sense for Qantas to be going with a plane that has already kind of proven itself useful.
So, and I also think what's interesting to note here too is the 787-10, which is included in this new order, is a perfect replacement for the A330 and the A330's range. So the 787-10 can't fly as far as the -9 version, but it's still a fantastic aircraft. Still has good range, but just can't go as far. So for Melbourne, it would be a great aircraft, and I'm assuming they're going to be using it on their Melbourne-Bangalore service. They will use it anywhere where they're currently flying a long-haul A330. So Brisbane, Los Angeles, for example, the -10 could be a good fit for that. But also including in that order the -9 variant, which does have a longer range. It's pretty clear that I'm calling it now, we could probably see some new routes announced by Qantas in the coming months.
And this is going to be, on that note, one of the nerdiest things I've ever said. But the Dreamliner is an extraordinary aircraft.
It's a beautiful aircraft.
And one of the things that makes it so
If
extraordinary...
they don't call it the Nightmare Liner.
Right. One of the things that makes it extraordinary is that on the one hand, this is your kind of workhorse, wide-body aircraft. It's not as big as the A380. It's not designed to do your kind of ultra long haul 777 style routes, but it's your common and garden international long haul route aircraft. But it also has the potential to fly very long range as well.
Correct.
And the idea, of course, that it is the aircraft that is flying from London to Perth was the first aircraft to do that kind of properly. And much like the MAX as well, again, a lot more long haul than its replacement. So these next generation of aircraft do, like you say, open up new routes, new possibilities.
And they're using the -9s on the Sydney-Auckland New York route as well.
Yep.
So they've already got form for doing these long haul routes, not non-stop like the A350-1000, but it's being a very serviceable long haul aircraft.
And for all the negative publicity, perhaps correctly, that the MAX has had, actually the Dreamliner has kind of quietly been a big success for Boeing. It shows that actually they still are able to be huge innovators, because it feels that is still the aircraft of choice for doing this.
Correct. And there are a lot of 787-9s and 10s flying long-haul flights all around the world each day for various airlines. And in Australia alone, the number of airlines that are operating the Dreamliner -9 and -10 variant on their long-haul services. United Airlines heavily feature their Dreamliners on their America to Australia flights. Air New Zealand is a big Dreamliner carrier. Qantas is becoming a Dreamliner carrier. Jake, as you mentioned, Jetstar with the 787-8 variant. It's a beautiful aircraft, and I think it's a great choice to replace the A330 for Qantas.
I mean, I've flown on a United Dreamliner before, and it was so smooth. It was such a smooth ride, and the fancy tinty windows.
That is the
cool.
bit I noticed
those
first.
Are cool.
Yeah.
No, and it feels nice to fly in a Dreamliner.
It does.
It purrs. It purrs when you're in it.
It's like
along
some kind of
nicely.
sky
Yes.
kitten.